Okay, folks, so this is Candycane Jane. I tried to set up with Snap for an interview, and we got one question in, and his internet died out. So, right now, he is just setting up to drive it 2 blocks away so that he can call us from his Bluetooth speakers in his car because his tethering didn't work and his iPhone refuses to give audio of me when he calls from it with Discord. So we're just going to be waiting for Snap's call. All right, we have Snap coming back. Hello?
Hey Jane,
Hey, Snap, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, actually. It's really good quality, luckily.
Okay, let's just go with this then. I think we're golden.
Okay, finally. It only took you driving 2 blocks away to get us golden.
Yeah. I drove around for the past 5 minutes I was looking for 3 bars, but I settled on two, and it sounds like it's fine. It sounds like it's good enough.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Oh my god. Oh, well, in any case, let's start with the first question I asked you earlier.
Okay,
Are you looking forward to Gaylee Summit number 3?
definitely. The last one was super fun. It was the last one was my first Gaylee Summit, and I'm super excited for the next one. I've been practicing a lot, and I think I have a few new things to show off.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So, my first prepared question is, as a longtime member of both the Melee and the Bear communities, what are your thoughts on the reach of Gaylee?
Interesting. So if I reach, do you mean like,
Uh,
kind of like expanding into different parts of the queer community or something else?
yeah, that's pretty much what I mean. Yeah, like how
Yeah.
it's brought different members of the queer community together, how it's all through Melee. Like, I just feel like you would have some very interesting thoughts on this.
hmm yeah, that's an interesting question. So I've been part of Gale for I think like between 6 months to a year. And I what I've been the way that I've been sort of taking advantage of that of this Discord and this community is it's just it's such a great mix of people that I wouldn't normally kind of socialize with. So um, there are queer people of all sorts. There are lesbians, there's gay men, there are bi people, there are transgender people. It's just everything, and it's such an amazing mix. It's also I'm sort of old. I'm 33. I just turned 33 a couple weeks ago, and I don't have that much exposure to people who are in their 20s. Most of the people that I am friends with are in the 30s or 40s, and so from my perspective, Gale attracts mostly young queer people of all sorts, and it's really cool to see just the huge mix.
Yeah, yeah, and like, um, we'll get a little bit to this later, but you graduated high school early and you've just been in the working world for a while, so you really haven't had that much like life experience with people younger than you outside of Gale, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, did you have more to say, or because I have plenty of things to add to that?
Yeah, we'll actually we'll get back to that. I have a prepared question along those lines. But between that question and now, I have the question. After having been to majors throughout every era of Melee, what would you say the biggest differences between our current era and the start of competitive Melee are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I started competing around 2004. At the time, Ken and Isaiah were, basically the two best in the world. And if you compare that scene and that era to now, there are just like so many differences. It's like night and day. But I would say that the biggest couple differences that come to mind are that things are much more professional now. So, we have commentators for most tournaments. We have overlays. We have like professional stream setups, even for smaller groups and, small like schools that are running a tournament will have like a relatively professional looking setup for a stream. It just looks and feels so much more professional than back in the day. Back in 2004, if you're lucky, one person was recording with some like garbage camera, and the commentary, if it existed, was just people screaming like "Oh, oh!" And it was just so, yeah, it was very, very like unprofessional and kind of hacked together. So like the level of professionalism is definitely one of the major differences. And then one other difference that I see from a lens that's different from, I think, most long-term old school Melee players is, as a gay man, being gay back in 2004 in a gaming community, in a gaming environment, was not easy. Um, Even in the Melee community, a lot of words and phrases, like derogatory terms toward gay people, toward queer people, those were thrown around and those were very much accepted. Like if you played in a defensive way, people in 2004 would say that you play gay. And nowadays, if you try to say that, if someone tries to say that someone's playing gay, they'll be quickly, chastised by any Melee person, even not in a queer space, even in like a relatively heterosexual Melee space, they'll be chastised and kind of put straight. So yeah, so I would say that like back in the day, it wasn't very welcoming toward gay people. I didn't feel comfortable coming out of the closet and being fully myself back in 2004. But nowadays, I'm completely out. I'm very openly gay, and I haven't received any sort of hate or any sort of discrimination of any kind in the current era, which I think is really beautiful to see.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Um, I definitely wish that I had lined up more questions about that because it does definitely sound like, especially since it's been something that you're so passionate about, it must have been rather difficult for a time to manage both who you are as a person and this thing that you love.
Yeah, it really was. I always, back in, let's say, 2004 to around like 2007, 2008, up until around Brawl came out, I really never felt comfortable being, completely open with who I was. I sort of tried to pass as straight. I noticed I was making a deliberate effort to like deepen my voice and sound more masculine, and to, not let any sort of traits that could be considered feminine or gay or whatever, whatever goes against the expectations for a heterosexual male. Um, so I noticed myself sort of hiding and trying to pass as straight for fear that I, be discriminated against or hated or whatever. And so it was tough. But I would say that isn't like exclusive to a gaming community or to Melee. I think that is sort of a really shared experience for a lot of queer people in many different environments where being queer or being gay isn't totally accepted.
Mm-hmm. And it's changing. It's crazy how much change there has been within even the past 10 years, because that's sort of the same point in time where the professionalism started to become a lot more apparent. And as such, like people refer to it as esports sometimes. It became very esports. And I feel as if a lot of the backlash against the derogatory terms that were being used, against the homophobia that was present, even somewhat, but not to the degree that I think that um, it really deserves, the amount of backlash against misogyny as well. Um, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just very interesting to really hear it from the heart, from your mouth, the mouth of someone who's been in the scene for so long, just how different it's been. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. One thing I want to add is because I'm like a data nerd, I'm a data scientist. I think about a lot of things in terms of probability and statistics and modeling and things like that, distributions. It's something that I see all the time, even when I'm not trying to. And the reason I bring this up now is um, like the amount of change that we've seen in the past 10 to 15 years, especially for how people are thinking about gay people, thinking about gay marriage, thinking about the terminology that they use and not using derogatory terms that would make people feel alienated or uncomfortable. The amount of change in the past 10 to 15 years is enormous, and I think it's incredibly like unlikely. If you told me 10 or 15 years ago that things would be as they are now in just 10 or 15 years later, I would not believe you. I would say that it would take much longer for this to happen. I think the rate of change has been amazing, and the kinds of changes that we've seen, even though things aren't perfect now, they're just tremendously better than they were back in, let's say, 2004, 2005.
Mm. And it's such a good thing too. The question that I'd say that I'd come back around to, this is the way that I have it phrased in my notes. On top of participating in Melee since ye olden days, you also graduated high school a year early to go straight to Berkeley and worked at both Apple and Google, helping to build the search algorithms that are being used to this day. With all these achievements in life, what upkeeps your drive and what do you hope to accomplish in Gaylee?
That's a great question. I want to clarify one thing. When you say my drive, do you mean like my competitive drive, like in Melee, or kind of in life more generally?
I feel like the fact that you're making a distinction there makes it seem as though there are distinctions for what your drive is in Melee and in life.
Hmm.
And I would really love to, first of all, know what the distinction is to you.
Yeah. That's yeah. So let's talk about that. I would say that Melee has kind of served different. It's kind of served me in different ways. Um, the, there's so much in this community that is so valuable and so entertaining and so kind of precious to me. And I'll just say a couple of them. So one is watching, like spectating, watching professional players play, even if I'm not playing while I'm watching. Just watching really, really top talent play is super entertaining for me. I love doing it. It's kind of like um, it's kind of like what I realize now what most people feel when they watch sports. I never understood sports for the longest time, but I never understood how someone could get so invested in a team winning or in a person winning in sports. But now I get it. Now with Melee, when my favorite player is just pulled a major upset or won a tournament or whatever, I get so hyped and I get so excited. So the spectator aspect is super fulfilling to me, even if like I was in a horrible accident and my limbs were chopped off and I could never play Melee again. If I could just watch, I would get a lot of fulfillment out of that.
Yeah.
Another way that I appreciate Melee is through casual play, just playing for fun, not in a tournament setting, just playing my friends and hanging out and just doing cool combos. That's super fulfilling to me. And then the third thing that I'll bring up is competing. I think I'm a very competitive person, and I love to enter tournaments and to perform really well under high pressure situations and high stress situations. Um, and so these three things have sort of like ebbed and flowed a bit over the past, like, let's say 15 years. So my drive hasn't always been exclusively on getting better and grinding. My drive around Melee is sometimes focused on spectating, sometimes it's focused on casual playing, and other times it's focused on tournaments and getting better and constantly improving. And so yeah, it's a kind of a mixed bag, and I don't know if other competitors in Melee feel the same way and have the same kinds of ways that they appreciate the game. Um, and and then in contrast, I would say like professionally or maybe in life, I'm also very competitive in life, and I always want to be the best. I want to do the best in school and get straight A's and be the top of my class. That sort of drive is always present. But I've reached a point in my life where, I professionally I've accomplished a lot of what I want to accomplish, and I am not necessarily interested in continuing to grow professionally and go higher and higher up the ladder. I'm pretty happy with where I am, and I sort of want to keep enjoying the data science that I'm doing, while also having a nice work-life balance and being able to see friends and do things that I enjoy outside of work.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. Thank you. That was extremely insightful, and I feel like just hearing your appreciation of the game is going to help me appreciate it more, like forever now.
That's really sweet. Thanks for saying that. And by the way, I recognize that I talk a lot, so if you want abbreviated or shorter responses, just let me know, and I'll make an effort to do that.
All right. I do have one that could be potentially just a short response. Um,
Sure.
as someone who's been dual maining for a long time now, you must have pushed the meta very far for your two respective characters, Game and Watch and Fox. Are there any techniques, combos, edge guards, like any combo throws? Is there anything that one could truthfully refer to as the snap?
That's really funny. I think the answer is yes. Although it's not flattering at all. For the longest time, I had a really bad habit of not ledge dashing with Fox and getting onto stage with a side B. It's a very scrubby option traditionally, and I used to be so terrified of ledge dashing that I would just always side B from ledge with Fox. So a lot of my friends, kind of think of it as the snap, and whenever they see someone else do it, they say, "Oh, is that snap playing?" So yeah, I'm not proud of that one at all, but I will say proudly that I do ledge dash now, and I do mix up my recovery options from ledge. So I hope eventually to help all my haters and all my friends realize that I've gotten over that bad habit.
Fair enough. That's definitely not the answer I was expecting, but I do love it. um, all right. I have the final prepared question on deck here. Um, so, I have heard it stated before that you are searching for the elusive melee playing gay bear. And I want to know why it is you think that you have not found the elusive melee playing gay bear in the Gaylee server.
That's such a great question. Um, so, for people who aren't familiar, gay bears are basically big, hairy gay men. So they usually have a beard. They usually have a lot of body hair. They're usually stocky or beefy, and I've been part of the bear community for a really long time, since I was 18 years old, basically. So one of the challenges with the bear community is, it sort of started off as, I think, a retaliation toward, a very elitist view of what is attractive to gay men, to the gay male community. I think that back in like the 80s, to be considered an attractive gay man, you had to be hairless and muscular and really fit, um, which is kind of, you can think of as like an Abercrombie and Fitch model. That was kind of like the only acceptable, uh, physical appearance or phenotype that was considered to be really attractive. Bears, on the other hand, they didn't really exist. At least the term didn't really exist. The concept didn't really exist in the 80s until the late 80s, when a lot of like big, gay, unfit, hairy men decided that they were tired of being, kind of outcasts and thought of as ugly and unattractive, and so the bear movement sort of arose, where, these bear bars, such as like the Lone Star Bar in San Francisco, they kind of, they came up, and the concept is, we will love you, and we think you're beautiful, even if you're not, super fit and muscular and hairless and all of that. And so, the bear movement, it was very inclusive in the beginning, Anyone was welcome, and it was very, very welcoming. But as humans do, um, people who are persecuted sometimes eventually become persecutors, and they sometimes become what they were trying to escape from. And unfortunately, bears uh, eventually became very elitist in their own way. Bears started having standards for what makes a bear, and what is the best kind of bear, what is the most attractive kind of bear. So um, the challenging thing is now if you go into the bear community and if you find bears attractive, if you're not also a bear, you will probably have a hard time getting people to be also attracted to you. Most bears, I would say, are only attracted to what they look like. Most bears are only attracted to their mirror image. There are exceptions, but I would say that it's true that most bears are kind of self-selecting. When it comes to Gaylee, which is such a great group, and I'm so happy to have it in my life and to be part of it. Gaylee, I would say, skews pretty young. I would say that most of the people in Gaylee are in their 20s, maybe younger, teenagers, and so that sort of is one obstacle. Gay bears tend to be in their 30s or 40s, and so I think there's sort of an age thing that is making it hard. And the other thing is that Melee is very it's very old. It's a 20-year-old game, and I think that even though a lot of gay bears are into gaming, they're much more likely to be into Ultimate than they are to be into Melee. So I think that those two things, kind of age and the fact that Melee is really old and really niche, make it pretty challenging. But I am not going to give up. I do believe that eventually there will be a gay Melee playing bear, and we'll live happily ever after.
I hope so for your sake too. Perhaps he's even listening to this right now, far off on your honeymoon, many, many years from now. And
Yeah, one can only hope.
yeah, hopefully he's just hibernating. Uh, hopefully. Um, I think that that is all the time that we have for today. Um, are there any parting thoughts? Are there any shout outs that you want to give? Anything?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much. You've been super warm, super lovely to communicate with, to plan with. I know that you have gone out of your way for this interview project with all the different players. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope to chat with you more and play Melee sometime soon. And the other thing is, big shout out to my close friend Zope, who I think also did answer some of your interview questions. I've known him forever. He's a longtime friend. We've been playing Melee together since high school. He introduced me to the competitive scene, and I just want to give a huge thanks to him. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't even be playing Melee. So thank you so much, Zope.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for this entire interview. It's been an honor. I honestly mean that. Like, I don't mean that in the meme sense. It's been an honor, Snap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane. I'll catch you soon.
I'll catch you later. Be well.